we got to talk about embracing your dark side. My dark side is, oh, thank you, Diane. My dark side is I love donuts. Now, let me be totally honest though. I have not had a donut in such a long time. In fact, the last time I had a donut was with my dad in like July. So I just went to Dunkin' Donuts just to get a coffee. But then I saw they have something called a Dunkfetti donut. A Dunkfetti frickin' donut. So I got this Dunkfetti donut, right? And it's like funfetti, but they call it Dunkfetti because it's a play on words. Oh my God. Dude, I'm eating this donut. I'm pounding this down like it owes me money. It is so good. I'm between clients right now in my office. I had some time to kill, so I'm like, why not shoot a video? Why not? To actually talk about something that is very beneficial, that may seem counterintuitive, and that is embracing your dark side. So there is this concept of Jungian psychology, or in Jungian psychology, and it says that we all have these two sides of us, almost like these two ego states. There's a persona and there's the shadow. Now, Jungian theory says that in order to live a life, a life of balance and a life of happiness, that we need to integrate both of those parts into our lives. Now, the persona is the part of us that we want to show to other people. The persona is the part of us. Like, for example, my persona is I'm a hypnotist. I know what I'm talking about. I'm somewhat put together, although somewhat scatterbrained at the same time. So we all have a persona, and the persona is that which we want to show to society. So it's a person who's put together. It's the person who is who knows what they're talking about. It's a person who's confident. It's a person who's professional. And many of you, I know what, because I know some of you watching this, I know what your personas are. And the persona is that part of you that you want to put out into the world, that you want to display for everybody else to see. Then there's the shadow side. Now, the shadow side is not necessarily the dark side. It's just that which is opposite from the persona. And we need to healthily integrate the shadow, because when we integrate the shadow, that's where we start to live a life of balance. If we don't properly integrate that shadow side of us, that's when people start to get anxious. They start to get depressed. They start to feel like they're in a rut or a slump, or they feel like something's missing. And if people don't integrate their shadow side in a healthy way, then guess what? It starts to come out in an unhealthy way, full force. And this is where people will turn to those negative too much behaviors. So for example, self-medication. They'll turn to too much drugs, too much alcohol, too much smoking, too much sexual activity. Those too much behaviors will start to come out, because what we're doing is we're pushing down that shadow side. Look at the shadow side as also somewhat rebellious. In fact, I had a client about a week ago, and this client said it was their second session, and this client said, Dan, the first session, I was really resistant. And you know what? Many of my clients say that at times. You know, I feel like I was kind of resisting something this session. I don't know why. So this person said, I was resisting on the first session, and I don't really know why I was resisting. I said, well, that resistance is actually your rebellious side. And that rebellious side is trying to tell you something. That rebellious side is there trying to keep you safe, because it doesn't really want you to change. It wants to keep you just as you are, because that rebellious side of you wants to keep you, it resists change. It doesn't want you to get better. It doesn't want you to change, because it thinks if you change, you're going to change too much, and then you're no longer going to pay attention to the rebellious side. So I asked this client, I said, what are some other ways that you can rebel other than having that rebellious side try and resist against the work that we're doing together? And she said, well, I said, what's something that you want to come out more, but you have like kind of repressed within you? You have like buried within you. And This person said, you know what, Dan? I have kind of a dirty side, but I don't really show that to people because I don't want people to judge me. Like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And I asked this person, what's one way that you can let out some of that dirty side? And we actually found that this person can get out that dirty side through journaling about it. And those entries are going to become a book that people can read. And it's going to be like a comedy book, like a comedy of error. And I said, what a perfectly imperfect thing. Now, people might want to know what's my shadow side, because I have a shadow side. This guy, your anxiety relief guy, has a shadow side. Now, my shadow side is actually my stage persona. For those of you who've seen my stage show before, you know I'm pretty much the opposite on stage of what I am personally. When I'm on stage, I'm boisterous, I'm loud, I'm sometimes seen as a little bit cocky or arrogant. When I'm doing an adult show, I am super dirty and vulgar. I say things on stage and joke about things on stage that I would never say, do, or joke about in my personal life. And that's an appropriate outlet. That's an appropriate outlet to display that shadow side. So that way it's in a healthy way being integrated. Now, my friends and my family, many of which who are watching now or will watch this, know that I'm not the same person on stage as I am in person. In fact, I was driving around with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and he said, you know, Dan, a good thing you're not that same guy on stage as you are in your personal life, because I would probably want to punch you in the face. So is the shadow side always bad, though? No, it's not. In fact, oftentimes the shadow side is a little, there's a good component to it. And usually if there's somebody that we're envious with that person and we display envy towards that person, it's usually because they are putting out there more of their shadow side than we are, and that they feel more comfortable putting out their shadow side. So here are a couple of examples, couple other examples of shadow, because when I say shadow, when I say embrace the dark side, a lot of people say, are you telling me I'm supposed to go and like drink myself into oblivion if I wouldn't normally do that, or start smoking cigarettes, or start like whoring myself out? No. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, if you watch the movie Thelma and Louise, that movie is a perfect illustration of the negative side of integrating too much of the shadow, and it shows what happens if you don't properly integrate your shadow side. Now, again, a lot of this is theory. A lot of it is Jungian theory, developed by the psychologist Carl Jung. And some people say it Jung, but it's Jung, Jung. So Carl Jung. So you can do some more research on it. And there's a lot of books that illustrate this as well. Another example of the shadow side is, let's say maybe you are a technical engineer and you're very technical minded, you're very analytical, but you also have a creative side, but you're afraid to show that side. So what you do is you start maybe taking a dance class or a crafting class. And the same thing with a lot of high school students. This happens with a lot of high school athletes. In fact, there's a lot of movies about this. For example, High School Musical, which I used to watch in college. We used to have High School Musical viewing parties in college, if you can believe it or not. But if you think about that movie, High School Musical, it's like the typical story of a high school athlete or a high school jock. There's the jock who's really good at football. He's on the football team. He's like a star athlete. And then he auditions for the musical. And that is his shadow side. That creative outlet is more of his shadow side. Oops, sorry. Now, what he's doing is he's integrating that shadow side of him, so that way he's satisfying both parts, satisfying both sides. Because that way, when he does that, he feels more whole, more complete. Now, guess what? I am working with a group of teens and parents as we speak. In fact, we're right in the middle of the group teen and parent program. And if you've been on my list, or if you're on my list, or if you've been on my Facebook the past few weeks, you've probably seen me marketing this and talking a lot about this. And what I have found is, last night I was talking to the group of parents, and I have 10 people in the program. And all the parents and we were talking online last night on this online group that I lead on Monday nights. We were talking about different outlets that their kids have and that their teens have, and how some of them have gotten very unhealthy. And some teens, they do too much of the too much behaviors. So they play video games too much, or they're on YouTube too much, or on their phones too much, or they're procrastinating too much. And the reason why is because they are looking for an outlet that gives them a false sense of release and relief, which is the truth with most people who procrastinate. So they go to things that give them that false sense of release and relief. Now, one of the ways to overcome that is to have them integrate in a healthy way more of their shadow side. So whatever they're showing to the world, whatever their persona is, to go on the other side of that and look at things from the other perspective. When people do this, they're going to start to feel happier. They're going to start to feel more integrated, more understanding of themselves. They're going to start to feel more whole, more complete, and they're going to start to feel happier. So think about some of those things that you've been kind of pushing down or pushing back a little bit, and how you can actually integrate some of those things into your life in a healthy way, so that way your shadow side doesn't just explode and come out and in an unhealthy way. Now, with that said, I'm a big fan of personal and professional development. You know this. I'm the anxiety relief guy. And a lot of people ask me, what are you going to do? You haven't been doing shows because of the pandemic. So what are you going to do? So what I've done is I put together a virtual tour where every month I explore a new topic with people. And I call this the Self-Help Series. So you can actually go and check this out. The link is in the description of this video. You can go to theselfhelpseries.com so you can find out which topics suit you. Now, every month I do another topic. You have the option of doing a la carte. You also have the option of getting the all access VIP pass, where you can attend all of these topics at a very discounted rate. Now, for those of you who have done sessions with me and you've worked with me privately or even in groups before, you know that I'm not cheap. I am not the cheap hypnotist. And it's because I get results a little bit differently, and the results that I get with people are well worth the investment. When you get into the self-help series, you're going to realize it is a fraction of the investment of what I normally charge people. The reason why I'm doing this is because I really wanted it to be a way to give back. I really wanted it to be a way to fuel more of that shadow side, more of that ego side of myself as well. And also explore things with people that I don't typically get the chance to explore with them individually, because most of the people I'm seeing are either anxious or high performers. So this gives me an opportunity to explore some of those topics with people that I love exploring. I just don't get the opportunity to explore it with people as much when I'm working with people privately. So go on to the selfhelpseries.com. Again, the link is in the description to this video. Feel free to share this with people and let me know what you think. As you're watching this, think about the different facets of your shadow side that you can start to integrate within yourself. The one thing I want you to remember about this, though, friends, is that the shadow doesn't mean bad. The shadow just means that part of us that we try and push down, because it's not necessarily what we want other people to see, or what we don't really feel comfortable with having other people see, because if other people did see that, they might think, oh, that's not who that person is, even though it really is. So find some healthy ways to integrate your shadow. And again, there's many ways to do this, especially online, where you have so many opportunities available to you online now, where you can take a class about something that you've been putting off or something that you really want to take. And for example, part of my shadow side, I eat kind of healthy. This Dunk Fetty donut is not healthy. But you know what? It's all about balance, my friends. Make sure you join the self-help series. And maybe, oh my gosh, that's a mouthful. Maybe you can watch me eat more donuts. Although I don't have that many donuts. So with that said, my friends, make sure if you haven't already, you check out the self-help series. And thank you so much for watching. Feel free to share this with other people that you feel can use the message. And also make sure you go on Instagram as well to see more notes to self. My Instagram is at Dan Candell. So it's instagram.com/Dan Candell, all one word. With that said, my friends, as always, be well, do good, be true to who you are, and stay sexy, cupcakes.